Who will have the more tenacious D? Which run-based offense will make the fewer mistakes? Which of the young coaches replacing legends of the NFL will come out victorious? And who's going to take who to the hill this Sunday at the Razor? We will soon find out when the Seahawks fly all the way across America to take on the surprising 1-0 New England Patriots. It's Mike McDonald versus Gerard Mayo. It's their seafood versus our seafood. It's a rematch of Super Bowl 49. And spoiler alert, it is actually Super Bowl 49 reunion weekend as well at Gillette Stadium. Seems like a grade A troll job if you ask me. But what do I know? I'm just the joker on the Jumbotron. Your old pal Nick Fitzy Stevens from the Six Rings podcast and the Six Rings postgame show on WEEI. And I am pleased now to be joined for our Behind Enemy Lines segment by the host of Seahawks Forever, Mr. Dan Viens joins the show for our Behind Enemy Lines segment in anticipation of Patriots versus Seahawks. What's going on, Dan?
I like how you greased the skids, got me all excited about it with the Tenacious D reference before dropping Super Bowl 49 on me. So, let's go. It's a pleasure to join you this morning. And it is morning here. Just want to make sure everyone knows that. This is early for me, so...
So this podcast is going to drop Thursday evening in New England, wherever you happen to get it, whether it's on Apple Pod, Spotify, the Odyssey app, wherever you can find Awesome Football Talk. But we are streaming live early Thursday afternoon, East Coast time. It's Thursday morning, MORNING, where Dan is coming at us right now, who will be in MOURNING come Sunday around 4 o'clock Eastern time. We will soon figure out. So, Dan, both teams, I think... This isn't let's not say it's one of those Spider-Man meme games, but to me, in a lot of ways, this game features two teams that are way more alike than we realize. They both have veteran quarterbacks who can move if need be, reasonably strongish arm. A lot of people didn't even think they may be starting at this point. They play behind shoddy-ish or patchwork-ish, if you will, offensive lines. There's some skill players to be had for sure. Running is the main course on offense. And then on defense, just being tough and nasty is the way they want to win ball games. And we've got a 38-year-old head coach, first year replacing a legend, Mayo over Belichick. And you guys have another defensive-minded young coach, 37-year-old Mike McDonald, formerly of the Ravens, now taking over for the great Pete Carroll. I'm expecting like 15 rounds on Sunday from 1 to 4, straight up.
Oh, it's fascinating. They say week one tells the most lies, and week two we find out a little bit more about who teams really are, and it's remarkable, all of the things that they have in common that you pointed out. And you didn't even mention that they both have young backup quarterbacks who are from the University of North Carolina and very, very good friends in Drake May and Sam Howell as well. So
the Drake May Sam Howell effect. Side note, by the way, if Geno Smith at any point this season is unfortunately injured or if he's inefficient, I'm a card-carrying member of the Sam Howell fan club. I have no idea why, after just giving him a garbage offensive line. Yes, he holds on to the ball too long, and I think he believes his arm and his legs can get him out of just about any disastrous scenario. But I think Washington bailed on him way too early, and if given a chance, he may just succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm bullish on Sam Howell. He got off to a rough start in training camp, but really showed in the preseason games what he's built like. And I think the Seahawks got him out of Washington before PTSD and kind of the Mac Jones, Zach Wilson effect really kicked in. And I think there's a lot to work with there. But for now, there's quite a bit of gap between Geno and Sam.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So Sunday we come into the game. This was part of the gauntlet that many believed was an impossible schedule for the New England Patriots in their September run. Most people obviously had them ticketed for a loss against the Bengals. They win 16-10. They open up some eyes. They play 60 minutes of rock fight football. Seahawks come in Sunday. They're a 3.5-point favorite, over under of 37.5 points. And then the Pats have the Jetropolitans, as we like to call them, at Death Life Stadium on Thursday. And then they go out to one of everyone's least favorite places to play, the Big Bell Bottom, as Berman calls it, in San Francisco. They finish off the month against the 49ers. People thought around here, at least, that if there was going to be one game that was winnable for the Pats in September, it would be the Seahawks. I thought originally, and I was right at least about the Bengals portion, that would be the more winnable game since he's always off to a slow start. Burrow still has question marks. Jamar Chase gave a half-ass effort at best. And the Patriots played pissed off like everyone did spend 6 months saying you guys stink, and so they came in hard and they won the game. Seahawks, I feel like I don't think you guys have tapped into what you may eventually be just yet, because there is a lot of talent on offense and there's a whole boatload of talent on defense. Squeaker, last week at the, what do you guys call it, Lumen now?
It is Lumen Field, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was the Clink, and then it
Right.
was
Last time the Patriots played here, it was CenturyLink, yeah, in 2020.
And now it's Lumen. Tighter game than anticipated, 26-20 over Denver. What did you see from a Seahawks, before we get into what you guys think about the Patriots in this matchup? What did you see that you liked, and what did you see from the Seahawks last week that opened your eyes maybe the wrong way?
Yeah, I think when you look at the two sides of the ball, I expected there to be some growing pains in the offense. It's an offensive line that has been notoriously problematic over the last 4 or 5 years, and one that most people expected to be so again this year. You know, all the national pundits were dinging the Seahawks for that, and that was, claiming that as one of the biggest reasons that they were, kind of in the 20s, upper 20s in most of the power rankings you see at the beginning of the season. And as much as I think they've turned their eyes towards that and really thrown some assets at the offensive line, they haven't played together. And you know how important continuity is up front. I know New England's struggling with that right now as well. There's some injuries involved there. I knew there were going to be some struggles there. Didn't know it was going to look as bad as it did coming out of the gate. The first 2 plays of the game, sack for Geno Smith and an interception caused by pressure. Got a little better as the game went along. But I knew that, Ryan Grubb, first time in the NFL as an offensive play caller, and trying to piece all these things together, I figured that would take some time. On defense, I wasn't quite sure. Anytime we saw the ones in preseason, they were dominant. But, preseason is what it is, and it was a very small sample size. What I saw, if I have one takeaway from the game on Sunday against the Broncos, it's as much as, we talked a little bit before we went on the air about how I think Sean Payton did us some favors with his game plan and how he handled Bo Nix, and facing Nix in his first start on the road at Lumen Field was an advantage for the Seahawks, certainly. But going back and watching the game, I've rewatched it 5 times now, a couple times from the broadcast angle, a couple times on all 22. It's remarkable how much better this defense is from an execution standpoint, from a schematic standpoint, from a communication standpoint, than it was at the end of last season. And you can see now really what cost ultimately Pete Carroll his job, a guy who was known as a defensive guru, right? And built his reputation on that. End of last season, the Seahawks just seemed lost on defense. They were missing assignments. They weren't playing hard. There was even some effort issues at the end of the season, which was something we'd never seen under Pete Carroll. Just watching the spacing, the communication with all 11 on Sunday, how guys rallied to the ball, how well they tackled in the open field, how well they got pressure up front on almost every snap. One of the top 5 teams in the league in pass rush win rate over the weekend. How the back end played and rallied to the football, knocked balls away. I mean, Nix threw 2 interceptions that could have easily been 5. Was much better than I expected coming out of the gate. Remember, when Mike McDonald came back to Baltimore from the 1 year he spent at Michigan, it took about a half a season for that defense to come together. And it really wasn't until the trade deadline they brought in Roquan Smith that things really, really clicked. I expected there to be more big plays, more explosive plays from the Broncos. Saw none of that. And we saw plenty of that the last couple of years. Just guys running wide open, broken plays, broken coverages on defense. So that was the most encouraging thing, because if it does continue to take the offense a little while to really click, you know as well as I do, you saw it on Sunday, that defense is the one constant that can keep you in games.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks defense, it is funny. It is funny how 2 coaches that were known for certain hallmark attributes. Pete Carroll was a defense guy. Bill Belichick, obviously a defense guy. His defense never fell off. As a matter of fact, they stayed top 10 last year, which I believe is what led them to sign a lot of their, I call them blue-collar, utilitarian, middle-class defenders. Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche, Jelani Tavai, and my favorite, Jabril Peppers. And then, of course, they re-signed Kyle Duggar. He's the only blue-chip player they had, according to ESPN, finishing number 8th out of the top 10 safeties across all positional groupings in the NFL. So a deficit of talent certainly presents itself on offense, and in the eyes of many on defense as well. Bill Belichick's problem was the roster building. a lot of his bad draft picks and a lot of the frustrations he had over Mac Jones and clashes with the ownership and front office led for his dismissal, or the conscious uncoupling, mutual separation, whatever the hell they chose to call it. I was surprised by Pete Carroll as well, but it is so nice, I think, from both of our perspectives to go watch those first games and go, no S word. This is what it is supposed to look like. It's funny. Without Pete Carroll and Belichick around, they didn't fall apart. Casting no shadows or besmirching in any way, shape, or form, no shade thrown at either legend, who will be first ballot Hall of Famers, and wings of buildings, game plans, and classrooms and programs need to be renamed after. But sometimes you just need a change. You need a fresh, youthful voice and a different way of going about things. And we saw two teams that came out prepared to fight week one. And I think that's the way both of them are going to play. I just think you have a few more, or rather the Seahawks, your team has a few more assets on offense that's going to allow you to grow a little bit more, hang in a few more games over the year, whereas the Patriots are going to need most games to go like they did last week. A lot of yards after contact, no turnovers, and be opportunistic AF when the other team falls asleep at the wheel or makes a mistake.
Yeah, and you guys ran the football so well week one. I'm already kicking myself for all the times in fantasy leagues I had Ramondre Stevenson on the board when I was on the clock and didn't take him. I think I got caught up in just the historical hesitance to take running backs in New England because they've never really featured one guy. That's got to be the game plan moving forward, right? I mean, the Seahawks run defense was effective on Sunday, but I'm not so sure that Denver really stuck with it, really approached it in the right way. They were intent on giving Bo Nix a lot of volume and really, starting off his development with a dynamic game plan that worked in his favor.
Dynamic.
They just didn't. Yeah, they just in the sense of they let him throw it 40 times in his debut on the road against a defense that was expected to be good. It was crazy to me because I do think they had a couple of moments where they ran the football okay. Jaleel McLaughlin averaged over 5 yards a carry. If there's anything that I wouldn't say worries me, but gives me pause is, I like our defensive front. I certainly like the way our inside linebackers rallied to the ball. They were a question mark, both new to the team through free agency this year. Mike McDonald has talked extensively about wanting to build that run wall as a foundation of his defense. But until you face a guy like Stevenson, you just don't know.
Yeah, I think it was last week. Is it Bofa Maye? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Boye.
Boye. Oh,
Boye
sorry.
Mafe. You had the Y.
I have it right here in my prep. Boye Mafe. Yeah, he was a top 10 Bofa Maye. Yeah. You want one Maye or you want both of them? I'll take
Did
both.
we just sign a guy? Do I need to? I gotta go.
Breaking news. Hold on. All right, hey guys. Yeah. So Boye Mafe had a great game last week for you guys as well. And on our side, Keon White, who fills in for Matt Judon, and
he was a guy I loved in the draft for the Seahawks last year.
Yeah. What an absolute behemoth, Goliath, Grohemoth, whatever you want to call him. Dude's just a mess and a game wrecker as well. You guys have a solid line. You got Hankins, Leonard Williams, good corners too. Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, good tacklers. Patriots last week per PFF only team that missed on less than 10% of all their tackles. Like, again, we are looking at very aggressive, tough as nails, like-minded mirrors of each other on Sunday.
Yeah, three of the top four graded corners in this game.
Yep.
According to PFF, and Marcus Jones, I think they had 8th.
Mm-hmm.
And Christian Gonzalez, they had 72nd, but he shadowed Chase and held him to 6 catches. And I don't know. Sometimes I use PFF grades. I do think it gives you a marker, right? But sometimes I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, but don't live like if we're just going to live by stats, then there's no reason to actually play the games.
Right.
We may as well just let a lot of ones and zeros or AI sim it out for us and tell us what the numbers would have dictated. People make mistakes. Things change throughout the course of the game. Both of these coaches are going to have to deal with something that could factor in on Sunday. It's going to be a beautiful day at Gillette Stadium, like an absolute perfect early fall LL Bean catalog type of day. So that won't factor into it.
Yeah, good.
Aside from, you guys having to travel cross country, though, I did hear from our friend Mike Reese at ESPN that over their last 35 1 o'clock games, this was pretty interesting to me. The Seahawks are 24-11. So I say you take the whole, the Seahawks are going to be tired. They're going to have tired legs. I'd throw that right out the window. I don't care about that in the least.
Yeah, that was a huge issue under the Mike Holmgren era. We were just terrible. Excuse me, as most teams are. You look across the league historically, traveling from the west to the east. Holmgren teams were terrible. They literally would look like they're sleepwalking through the first half. Carroll tapped into something, started practicing at 10 a.m., started to acclimate them to that, started keeping them on that schedule as they traveled, going back east a day earlier than they had in the past, and it worked. And so, there is some trepidation here about whether or not that can continue. I will say this. We did just find out yesterday from Mike McDonald that he has kept all of those parameters in place and decided, hey, he wasn't so egotistical that he wasn't able to look back over things that worked for Pete Carroll. And indeed, that was one of the things. And so he's kept all of those routines in place. They will be heading back a day early. They'll be flying back tomorrow, and they are doing the 10 a.m. thing. So we'll see. We'll see if it translates.
That's very smart. It's smart, too. Just like Gerard Mayo kept a lot of the things, the hallmarks and tenets of Belichickian football from a quarter century as well, but changed a few things up as well. Yeah, like keep that's okay. We learn from our experience and mistakes. This is what worked for Bill. I'm going to sign these players. I liked a lot of these guys. I'm going to promote our former defensive line coach to D coordinator, and I'm going to keep one of the Belichick guys as safety coach. There's a lot about this team that should remind people of the last quarter century, just minus the stars on the outside and the greatest quarterback of all time under center, and then the man who held the media and even some of his fans at times in great disdain on the sideline. But that's okay, because now you can find Bill Belichick on the Cooking Channel, on CNN, on Fox News,
he's on
the Weather Channel. My God, he's on InstaFace, Underdog. We could be heading into, just like it's pumpkin spice saturation season, we may be in Belichick saturation season as well.
When's he hosting SNL? That's the next. That's the next.
From your mouth to God's ears. If SNL were to reach out to Belichick, if Bill Belichick hosts SNL this year, I can die a very happy man, though I do want to see my team at least get back to the playoffs and continue raising my two ridiculously wonderful kids. All right, so I hear from you, like maybe not the Patriots passing game, but obviously their tough defense, good kicker, Ramondre Stevenson in the running game as well. So before we get to our predictions, I'm kind of getting a feel for exactly how you feel about the Seahawks. Like this is going to be a tight one. Give me maybe one or two players on defense and one or two guys on offense that we may not have heard about or spoken too much of that we need to keep our good eye on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the guy on defense and maybe I'm behind on this. I was going to say Rayshon Jenkins. He had an outstanding job, or had an outstanding game. Our strong safety signed in the offseason. But Julian Love is a guy that is really making a name for himself. Came over as a free agent from the Giants last year. Had coming off a good year. He was a reserve his first 3 years in the league, and then took on a bigger role with the Giants. Came over on a small 2-year deal last year. Had an uneven season. Some fans thought he was bad in the first half, and then he finished strong enough to actually get a Pro Bowl nod. Signed a big extension in the offseason that caught quite a few of us off guard, just because we thought it was early, didn't know if it was necessary, wanted to see him. We did in McDonald's defense before we went and handed him $36 million. He was absolutely outstanding. I think he was PFF's top graded safety in week 1. He was everywhere in coverage, had an interception near the goal line on Bo Nix, was flying around in the run game. He's the guy that kind of makes that defense click. He played strong safety last year, but this year he's basically playing what the role that Quandre Diggs has played in the last couple of years, sort of the quarterback of the defense. So he's a guy to keep an eye on, number 20. On offense, I'll give you a boring one, because everybody wants to talk about skill position players, right? And if Kenneth Walker can't go this week, then certainly keep your eye on Zach Charbonnet. He's a guy that would probably start for a lot of teams in this league. But
on the field and in fantasy as well, because Charbonnet, if I remember correctly, was pretty smooth last year catching the ball out of the backfield. He's got good hands.
Yep. Yeah, for a guy that size, really, really good out of the backfield. Had a long touchdown on Sunday, actually, touchdown pass from Geno Smith as well. I'm going to say, to me, I'm watching, keep talking about the offensive line. I want to see week 2 from Connor Williams. This is a guy that should have never been available. We were fortunate that he was an all-pro level center, one of the top 5 centers in the league, as far as Again, PFF goes the last 2 years, coming off the ACL injury. So we get him late, right before camp. He only practices for 2 weeks. Only 9 months removed from tearing his ACL. He goes out there and plays every snap on Sunday. And by all accounts was, to my eye, was good, but rusty. I think there's a lot of consternation here about the two guards and their play, especially in pass protection, and that being the weak link on the offensive line, and even right tackle if you want to get really doomsday about it. But to me, if you have a good pivot, if you have a guy that's playing at a high level in the middle, he can make up for some of that. He can help those guys out. And I think I'm still in a little bit of a I'll believe it when I see it mode. But now that he's gotten comfortable and he's practiced at a high level and played a full game, keep an eye on Connor Williams, because I think if they can protect Geno Smith, then they've got a shot against anyone, but especially this week, I think.
Especially up the gut as well, where the Patriots defense has its strength, and guys like Keon White oftentimes will shift in to create a mismatch or pressure the pocket as well. Maybe see if Geno can throw him one, and I'm sure the same thing will be said or possibly game planned for Jacoby Brissett, who is not exactly fleet of foot as well, and is going to be under duress for most of the game as well. Somebody who's watching live on YouTube, Jeff Stenberg, how's Christian Haynes look for you guys? Like to see a UConn kid do well.
So the big question around here is not if, but when is he going to be inserted into the starting lineup? He had a fantastic preseason, but he never ran with the ones. It was Laken Tomlinson at left guard, and it was Anthony Bradford at right guard. And Mike McDonald pushed that right guard competition all the way up to training camp, tried to keep the Broncos guessing. It ended up being Bradford. Both of those guards got better as the game went along, were good in the run game, but struggled in pass protection at times. And so, again, the question here isn't when he's going to play, it's if and where. I mean, which guy? I'm actually doing a show later today with some cut-ups, some all-22 stuff, trying to determine should he replace Tomlinson or Bradford. And it's not clear right now. Maybe we'll get more evidence after Sunday. He's clearly more talented than those two. And will, once he gets on the field, I don't think he's leaving. He's terrific. He's better to the second level. He's quicker out of his stance than those guys. He's more stout against bull rushes and power, but he can handle quickness better as well. Honestly, it's the one of all the really good personnel decisions I think the Seahawks have made this offseason. Him not being on the field, I feel like, is a miss right now, and it's only a matter of time before he's out there.
Yeah, Patriots, one of the things I liked most that Elliott Wolf did this offseason was basically not being beholden to any person that was on the roster, any recent draft pick of Bill Belichick. As we've seen last year, Pats burn a fourth rounder on a place kicker out of Maryland. Adios, Chad Ryland. Here comes the veteran, Joey Sly, who looks like he either just won a strongman competition, an arm wrestling competition, or is like a boutique bartender and barber in Brooklyn. Jacked up, long beard, isn't afraid of the big kick, and that's great to see. That happened before. Rohrwasser failed. They brought in Nick Folk. Now Chad Ryland fails. In comes Joey Sly. Did the same thing on the offensive line as well, and the offensive line has been a mess for years, and they need to get that settled. Would not be surprised to see the Seahawks try to stress the left side of the offensive line, where Nick Leverett could be filling in for Sidy Sow, and Sidy Sow is only so-so at best. And then you have the combination of Vidarian Lowe and Chuks Okorafor at left tackle. The right side looks good with veteran center David Andrews, rookie Layden Robinson, who's come in, outgo all the retreads there. In comes this Mauler from A&M, and big Mike Onwenu from Michigan as well. So it's going to be power right. And you mentioned earlier, before we wrap out and get your prediction, you mentioned earlier, like, seems like the Patriots aren't hesitant to let people know that they're going to be a run-first team. Offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt said as much 6 months ago in what my co-host called his prisoner hostage video released on Patriots.com. Gerard Mayo said they're going to be as much earlier in preseason. And then Monday on WEEI, he said, look, we're not afraid to tell people we're going to be a running-based team. And I don't think there's any shame in telling people every week, this is what we're going to do. We think we can do it well enough and better than you can defend it. So game on. I love it when people say my strength versus your strength. Let's see who's the strongest. All right, Dan. Let's see. What is the official Seahawks Forever, Hawks at Patriots, 1 o'clock prediction? Beautiful weather. Hopefully the fans are charged up, lubed up, and ready to rock, making you guys almost feel like in an environment minus our beloved 12, that our 11, not Bledsoe or Edelman, but our 11 on the field and the 65,000 strong at the stadium with the lighthouse can make you feel at home, but maybe not make it so home sweet home.
Yeah, this wasn't as easy as some of your fans might think it was. I do think the Seahawks have the advantage here because I think that defense is playing at a high level to start the season. And I think especially with all the issues you just mentioned up front for the Patriots, and some of the muddy situation kind of with their skill position guys and waiting for guys to step up there. I think it's going to be an ugly game at times. It could come down to a turnover. I don't think we're going to see a lot of explosive plays down the field. It could be, even though you said it's going to be a beautiful day, it could be kind of a mud type game, right? Kind of a mudder type game. I'm going to go Seahawks 17-13. And I don't think this game's going to be decided one way or the other until maybe the last drive or two. So I feel good-ish about it. You just
adjacent.
As I mentioned at the top, you just don't know from week to one to week two. We see so many swings, and it's tell the truth in week two, right? And the Seahawks are going to struggle. I've been telling people this for a while. It's going to take a while. It's still a new staff. It's still a significant portion of the roster is new. There are going to be games that they win that people don't expect them to win. There are going to be games that they lose that they don't think they're going to lose. And this would certainly qualify as having the potential to be one of those.
Well, all offseason long, I told people I thought the Patriots would win the first week. Nobody believed me. They won. I got my mini victory lap, but I am not resting on that as we move into week two as well. I did say that I thought the Seahawks would win this game by a field goal, that the Patriots and Hawks were ultimately similar, but I've kind of changed my prediction just so I can't help it. I'm a card carrying member. I'm a fan just because I work for the team. I have Pats 23, Hawks 20. Although I'm inclined to think that Seahawks by 3, Seahawks by 4, and the under may be a smart bet. One of our regular viewers wants to know any Seahawk props you're leaning towards. I'm trying to buy a jet ski. Wow. At least we know what you'd use it for. That's good, Dan.
I was going to say the under, but full disclosure, for reasons you just kind of touched on, I don't bet. I'm terrible at it, so don't take my betting advice ever.
All right. Well, listen, he is Dan Viens from Seahawks Forever. You can give him a follow on the socials at Seahawks Forever. And I trust we can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Pods, and wherever awesome football talk is distributed, my friend.
Yep. Indeed. Yep. And the YouTube channel, of course. Yeah.
Yep. He runs on YouTube. Lots of cut-ups as well. Good breakdowns of Seahawks action, NFC West action, and all things NFL. All right. That'll do for this portion of Six Rings and Football Things. Dan, we thank you very much for your time as well. Looking forward to a great game on Sunday. I wish you well, so long as well means you enjoy the game right up to when the Patriots kick the winning field goal.
I'm not, just for the record, I'm not going to tune in until about 2 or 3 minutes into the game because I'm going to let them show the end of Super Bowl 49 as they're want to do, and I just can't watch it. So if
I send you a selfie of me and Malcolm Butler, is that too much?
That's too much. Yeah, that might end our friendship before it really got a chance to begin.
And here I thought it was the start of a beautiful friendship.
I know.
All right. Hey, Dan, thanks so much for your time, man. Appreciate you.